Welcome to Senior Playbook. Today's episode is a follow-up to a recent one on vitamin B12 deficiency. That video got a tremendous response, and one question kept coming up in the comments. What type of vitamin B12 supplement should you be taking? In the previous episode, I explained you can treat or prevent B12 deficiency with an oral supplement of 1,000 to 2,000 micrograms daily. But in the U.S., oral supplements come in a few different forms, most commonly Cyanocobalamin and Methylcobalamin. The most frequent comment wasn't really a question. It was more along the lines of, "Doctor, why didn't you tell people they absolutely must be taking methylcobalamin?" So today, I want to lay out the differences and tell you which form I recommend and why. Let's review the main types available. For a long time, the most commonly used form has been Cyanocobalamin. Cobalamin is the technical name for vitamin B12, and the prefix tells you which type. Chemically, the B12 molecule has a core structure with one position where a small chemical group attaches. In Cyanocobalamin, that attachment is a carbon-nitrogen unit, essentially cyanide. In Methylcobalamin, it's a methyl group. Cyanocobalamin is actually a synthetic form, first synthesized in the 1950s. It's very stable, holds up well in supplements, is inexpensive, and has been used routinely by clinicians for decades. It's what's in most clinical research on treating B12 deficiency. If you go to a clinic for B12 shots, this is most likely what you're receiving. It has an excellent track record and extensive clinical experience behind it. There are other forms. If you looked at B12 naturally present in meat, you'd find one of three naturally occurring forms. The one most commonly used as a supplement today is methylcobalamin. It can be more expensive and is generally a bit less stable. However, it appears to be more bioavailable. The body retains it somewhat better. Adenosylcobalamin is the form most prevalent in beef, and hydroxycobalamin is another naturally occurring form. This distinction matters because no matter which form you take in, the body removes that R group during processing and later adds back either a methyl group or an adenosyl group. Those are the forms actually used inside your cells. In the U.S., the two most commonly found oral supplements are Cyanocobalamin and Methylcobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is the form used in medical clinics and referenced in Up to Date, the most widely used clinical reference for physicians. Methylcobalamin has historically been favored by naturopaths and functional medicine practitioners, reasoning that since it's biologically active and naturally occurring, it must be more effective. But the real question is whether we have evidence that one form works significantly better. All four forms of vitamin B12 do get absorbed, either through intrinsic factor or through passive diffusion for those who may have pernicious anemia. After absorption, all four get converted to a cobalamin intermediate within cells, where the specific R group gets stripped off regardless of which form you took. It's then converted either to methylcobalamin in certain parts of the cell or to adenosylcobalamin in the mitochondria. Researchers' conclusion: for the greater part of the population, the bioavailability of all four forms is comparable. We're all genetically different. Some people have variations that make certain conversion steps less efficient, and some rare genetic defects make it hard to convert most B12 into what the body needs. But that applies to a minority. For most of us, any of the four forms should work. That said, evidence is growing that cyanocobalamin has lower tissue retention, higher urinary excretion, and therefore somewhat lower overall bioavailability than the naturally occurring forms. Your body holds on to cyanocobalamin less well, and you end up excreting more of it, but it still functions properly in cells. Some researchers also suggest using natural B12 forms for long-term supplementation to avoid accumulation of cyanide in tissues, particularly relevant for smokers, since tobacco smoke is a major cyanide source. What about cyanide in general? It is toxic, but in normal daily life, we're all exposed to trace amounts constantly. Smokers bring in more. Living in a city means exposure through automobile exhaust, so there's important context if you're worried about cyanide from your B12 supplement. What do clinical trials tell us? I looked, and there are virtually no randomized controlled trials directly comparing the two. The only one I found was a small trial in children comparing intramuscular cyanocobalamin with sublingual cyanocobalamin and sublingual methylcobalamin. The IM injections worked faster. Sublingual methylcobalamin resulted in slightly higher levels than sublingual cyanocobalamin, but the difference wasn't dramatic. And since these were children, how well the results translate to older adults isn't entirely clear. We have many older studies demonstrating successful treatment with both forms. Newer research uses methylcobalamin more often, but a direct head-to-head comparison in older adults that would quantify the difference simply doesn't exist yet. Here's my interpretation. Cyanocobalamin has an established track record and is effective for the vast majority of people. Methylcobalamin appears to be retained somewhat better and doesn't carry cyanide. That means methylcobalamin could potentially be more effective at treating deficiency, with a small health benefit from reduced cyanide exposure. So methylcobalamin may be the better choice, but for most people only a little bit better, not dramatically so. For a severe deficiency, focusing on methylcobalamin might make extra sense, but I'm not convinced the research shows a huge practical difference for the average person. My answer? For oral treatment, in most people, either form is acceptable. What matters most is getting your deficiency detected if you have one and treating it. Either form accomplishes that. Methylcobalamin costs a bit more. If cost isn't a concern, there's a modest advantage in choosing it. For those worried about cyanide, remember, we're constantly exposed to trace amounts through everyday life. If you do smoke, quit. That's the more important step. One consideration, some methylcobalamin products are slightly less stable and can degrade faster, so supplement quality matters. If you're being treated, the most important follow-up step is to check serum B12 levels after a few months. The key question is whether your dose is enough for levels to actually rise. For most people, if serum levels go up, the B12 is getting into cells. There's a very small minority with genetic issues that interfere, but most people won't fall into that category. If after a few months your serum levels haven't risen, first make sure the oral dose is being taken consistently every single day, a real concern with frail older adults who have difficulty with daily medication adherence. If adherence is solid, consider increasing the dose from 1,000 to 2,000 micrograms or more. There's no upper limit because the body excretes whatever it can't use. You could also switch supplement brands since production quality varies, and switching from cyanocobalamin to methylcobalamin to see if that produces a better response is a reasonable step. If serum levels rise, but you still wonder whether it's enough for the body's needs, check confirmatory tests like methylmalonic acid. Methylcobalamin is probably a slightly better choice, but I'm not convinced it's significantly better. Apply the law of diminishing returns in healthcare decisions. The biggest value is in detecting the deficiency and starting treatment. Choosing methylcobalamin over cyanocobalamin provides a small incremental benefit, useful, but not where the real payoff lives. If this video helped you, do us a quick favor and hit that like button. It helps more seniors discover these tips. Drop a comment below and let us know which tip surprised you the most. We read every single one. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Senior Playbook and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Your next chapter starts here. We'll see you in the next one.